What's good, everybody? You already know what time it is. Welcome. So check this out. This is from the FT, Financial Times, mainstream media. Bitcoin tumbles from record high as Grayscale ETF outflows hit 12 billion. Cryptocurrency down 16% from its peak as net fund flows turn negative. Ooh. The media wants you to sell your Bitcoin, okay? There is nothing but fear, there's nothing but panic, there's nothing but negativity from this post from the Financial Times, okay? Bitcoin tumbles from record high as Grayscale ETF outflows hit 12 billion. And this is definitely a contributing factor to why we are seeing weakness in Bitcoin right now. It's a contributing factor to why Bitcoin right now is $63,000 and not $70,000, not $80,000. Now, if you just read this, you don't have the full picture. You don't have a full understanding of what is going on. As a matter of fact, you have a very biased view and the wrong view at that. So let me tell you exactly what is going on right now. Grayscale is a legacy asset manager in the cryptocurrency Bitcoin game. Okay, legacy. They came onto the market with one of their funds that allowed investors to get some sort of access to Bitcoin way back in 2013. All right, 2013. Some of you guys are probably like 5 years old back then. Then at the start of this year, we had a whole new wave of these spot ETFs come to market. So it's a different product that allowed a whole new pool of investors to get access to Bitcoin through the stock market, okay, through these spot ETFs that I've been talking about a lot. Well, the world has been talking about a lot because it's a big deal, okay? Launched beginning of this year, 2024, the first time in cryptocurrency's history and Bitcoin's history that investors were able to access Bitcoin through the stock market. Simple as that. Press a few buttons, now you have access to Bitcoin rather than going for exchanges and getting wallets and all of that hassle. But bear in mind, Grayscale came to the market with a trust. So it wasn't an ETF, it was a trust that allowed the investors to get some sort of exposure to Bitcoin. But here's the thing, it wasn't listed on the stock market, it was unlisted. So it was harder to access. But they had the monopoly because there was no other spot ETF. So if you wanted to get access to Bitcoin outside of the ways that people were doing it through exchanges and wallets, then this was an opportunity. But again, it wasn't open to everybody because it was unlisted. So because they had the monopoly, here's the key thing, because they had the monopoly, they were able to charge very high fees, okay? If you're the only player in the game, you can charge whatever you like and people will buy it from you because you're the only person. There's no competition, there's no one else anyone can turn to. Start of 2024, the game changed. We had 9 new spot ETFs come onto the market. Grayscale, that was the legacy player in the game, operating since 2013, went ahead, transferred their vehicle into a spot ETF. Since they did that, okay, and since the new ETFs came to market, so we're talking BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK, since they all came to market, we've just been seeing massive inflow. So those legacy investors that have been putting money since 2013 into Grayscale have been selling and selling in their billions, like every single day. They've just been selling out. Makes sense. Why would you? Why would you stay in this one investment vehicle that's got higher fees, way higher fees, when there's other alternatives like BlackRock? Not only that, people have been selling out of Grayscale because you're now competing with the biggest and the best in the game. BlackRock, $10 trillion under management. So why would you keep your money with Grayscale? Let me just move to the one that is lower fees, is the biggest in the game, and has got the reputation behind them. So it makes sense. But what's happening right now is the media and the market is very focused on the outflows coming out of Grayscale. And what's been happening is those that have been in Grayscale have been selling, but then BlackRock, they've probably been opening up an account with BlackRock and just buying through BlackRock, right? So it's been coming out of Grayscale, predominantly going into the other ETFs, mainly BlackRock. So BlackRock has just been soaking up all of the leakage from Grayscale. However, now that the market has been moving down, now that we are in a bit of technical weakness, okay, we're not seeing the momentum that we were seeing a couple of weeks ago with Bitcoin, but in combination, we're getting closer and closer to that halving event. So you've got a lot of people who are just now waiting on the sidelines. BlackRock aren't there, and the other ETFs aren't there to soak up all of the leakage from Grayscale. Simple as that. So even though there's 12 billion coming out of Grayscale, it means nothing, because Grayscale and Grayscale's investments and Grayscale's investors have a zero impact on the trajectory of Bitcoin. Zero. So for all we care, Grayscale can go to zero, they can go out of business. It doesn't change a single thing for you and I. But what it does do right now in the short term is it puts a cloud of fear and ambiguity across the entire market right now. And you have a lot of people who are now looking at this thinking, oh, now it's time to sell, or they're sitting on the sidelines because they don't have the full information. But that's it. All that's happening right now is you just have a lot of people now who are just holding back. It's a let's wait and see type of market because we're so close to the halving event and we've moved into some downwards momentum. So people are just like, let's wait and see what happens with Bitcoin. And once I've waited and I've seen, then I'll put my money back in. Then I'll soak up the rest of the Grayscale funds that have been leaking and been selling out. That's as simple as that. That's all it is. But you have the media who will be making the most of what's happening right now and saying Grayscale ETF outflows hit 12 billion, but that's not the full picture. You guys now have the full picture. So it doesn't change anything, doesn't change the bull run, doesn't change where Bitcoin's going, doesn't change the trajectory, doesn't change anything, doesn't change Bitcoin dynamics, doesn't change nothing. All it does is it just shakes foolish people out of the market, and that is it. Let's look at the price right now, because everyone wants to know what's actually going on with Bitcoin. Where is it going in the short term? Where's it going to go in a month? Where's it going to go in 6 months' time? So let's address that. I haven't prepped this, so I'm just doing this off the dome. Key thing here right now is there is some sort of reversal formation here, okay? You do have a pretty decent reversal formation, which is good. And that in itself is in confluence with a nice retracement to that 50% level. Okay, this is something that I told you guys a couple of days ago. When Bitcoin was dropping, actually when it dropped, I believe it was about 15%. I did say we've moved down to this key 50% retracement level and we should get some stability from there, if you guys remember that. And from that mark, we actually did see Bitcoin move up about 10%. Now it's retraced since then and come back down a little bit, but it's still not taken out that low of a few days ago, right? That low that Bitcoin put in of just above 60,000. So we do have some stability forming, and that is in confluence with the fact that it's moved to a relevant retracement level. And that's why we've seen a bit of an elevation in price, and we haven't just seen Bitcoin crash to $0. But saying that, all right, the key thing I'm seeing here is we've been downtrending, and it's been downtrending pretty strong. As you can see, it's making a series of lower lows, lower highs, clear downtrend. But the key thing here is that high that I put in, like yesterday or day before, did not move above the high that it put in before that. So because of that, we're still in this negative momentum territory for Bitcoin. So it's still looking it's still looking weak, okay? But you do have obviously conflicting forces here, okay? You have some stability, some indication that it's putting in a bit of a low at the bottom, but then we also have the fact that it rejected and failed to make a new high. So you've got this confliction going on, and that could lead to some sideways trade in motion. But another key thing is this, and this is something I mentioned way back, okay? We have this low right here. This low was 59,300 and something. We have this low right here. This was 60,000, almost the same level. I can guarantee the market is going to liquidate the buyers here at this level and the buyers at this level. When that will come, it'll either come pre-halving or post-halving, like very soon after. Obviously, we're in the pre-halving stage right now. If it does come post-halving, it will come pretty soon after. That's what happened back in 2016, where we saw the market sell off 20%, or a little bit more than that. I believe it was about 25%. And then post-halving, we saw it drop another 10, 15%. If that was to repeat itself, it would easily take out these lows. Where would it go to? It would go down here to about 57, okay? Between 57 to 55. And then you're gonna get an explosion in the price. So that's the expectation. Situation is, it's still in negative territory. This isn't a rebound to the upside. We have some target points for liquidation right below, and the market will definitely take them out during this halving period, okay? So between now and a few days after halving, you're gonna see Bitcoin down at 55 to 57. And then after that, it's good to go green lights for some stability, and that could take about a month. That's what happened in 2016. That's what happens after halving. Halving events are very highly anticipated events, yes, but the true move and the rewarding move comes a couple of months later, and then even more after that. I don't see a reason why this time should be any different. So down to the 55 to 57 range, good to go, green lights, we see stability, market chops along. 1 or 2 months later, you start getting some injection of pace, and then that builds and snowballs, moves higher. Then we start seeing price get into some strength territory, then get into all-time high, then the FOMO kicks in, then you get that electrifying bull run that we're waiting for, and that will come. That's the expectation. Until price reclaims $70, it's still in weakness. What does this mean? Well, it doesn't mean that you sell Bitcoin. It doesn't mean that you necessarily wait for any of these things. It just gives you an idea of what to do. The whole point is, the bigger upside move is coming. You should still continue to accumulate your Bitcoin, still continue to accumulate your position. Obviously, there are trading moves that can be made along the way if that's your type of thing, but the bigger move is coming. But to give you a sense of where we are, and then the time frame, and then how to take advantage of that, okay? That's key. If you just read the FT or any type of news outlet, CNBC, Fox News, whatever the case may be, you're not gonna have the full information, and it's gonna put you in a position where you're not fully taking advantage of the situation that's going on right now. All of this was very predictive, right? When Bitcoin was at 70,000, I did say, this is going to come. You are going to see a retracement, you're going to see a decline, you're going to see a sharp move downwards. And I gave you the levels. I did say, I'd said 55,000. I told you we're going to hit this mid 60s range. It's all part of the plan. Nothing here is unexpected. The motion is just going according to the scriptures, right? That's the situation. But saying all of that, why are we going to see an explosive move in Bitcoin, and why should you get ready for that, right? That's the question. Let's go. Now, once it loads. Cool. So yes, we have seen net outflows in the Bitcoin spot ETFs. And this is what the FT was talking about, but it wasn't the full picture. As I've just told you guys, you can see last couple of days, overall combined across all the spot ETFs, we've had 4 back-to-back red days, 4 back-to-back red days. So you can imagine what that's doing to the sentiment in the market. You can imagine how the market right now is reading this situation. They're reading it only from one perspective and one perspective only, and that is negative. When I say the market, I mean the retail market. I don't mean your big institutional players like BlackRock, like your asset managers, like your whales, and we're going to get onto all of that. But I've already explained Grayscale and the situation there. All we are focused on from a what is the spot ETFs doing perspective is what is BlackRock doing, okay? That's all we care about. What is BlackRock doing? Why? Because BlackRock is the largest asset manager, 10 trillion under management. BlackRock is the largest of these spot ETFs, going to continue to accumulate roll-up funds and continue to buy Bitcoin. BlackRock effectively, on behalf of all the investors, own 1% and growing of the entire supply of Bitcoin. So they're the ones that we have the eyes on. If you look at this chart right here, this is from the day that the BlackRock spot ETF launched, January 11th. There hasn't been one single day where we've seen more selling than buying. Crazy. Crazy. That right there is the punchline. We haven't seen one single day where we've seen more selling or where they haven't bought Bitcoin and haven't bought more than the entire daily new circulation, that's 900, since the launch. That is the punchline right there. It's not about what Grayscale's doing. Nobody cares about Grayscale. We don't care about Grayscale. Grayscale can go to zero. Grayscale can disappear from the face of the planet. Nobody cares. Because all of the money that was in Grayscale is just going to flow very nicely back into BlackRock. That's it. Grayscale right now just creates a very nice headline for the media and creates the fear and some selling pressure, which you can take to your advantage. So every single day we've seen more inflows into BlackRock. Every single day they bought Bitcoin. Every single day they've continued to accumulate, even in the face of a 16% corrective move in the price of Bitcoin from its all-time high. We've continued to see increases. That gives you a very clear indication of not what your neighbor or your granddad or your co-worker is doing in regards to Bitcoin. It gives you an indication of what the big institutions are doing, okay? What the smart money is doing, what the patient capital is doing, what those who have a deeper and more cohesive understanding of Bitcoin is doing right now. And they are buying. And they are buying because they are very well aware that the explosive move is coming. Okay. You're going to continue to see this pattern where they continue to accumulate and stack because they're not done. This is an asset manager, globally connected, $10 trillion under management, millions and millions of clients. And remember, there's a lot of capital right now that is in let's wait and see mode until the halving event is done. Then they will inject that excess capital into Bitcoin. And this is how you're going to get an explosive move, making all of this price action redundant that we're seeing right now. This is the bigger picture. This is the stuff that you want to understand. Right. Halving event is coming up. I think it's like 24 days away. So not long at all. 24 days away. We're seeing weakness in the price of Bitcoin right now because market is in that let's wait and see mode because we're so close to that halving event. And because this is a predictive event where we've seen this happen 3 times past in history, we have a good understanding of how the price reacts and responds before and after the halving event. Before the halving event, and this is something that I was saying when Bitcoin was up at 73,000 in the clouds, before this halving, you're going to get a sell-off, and that is playing out very nicely right now. This is the pre-halving sell-off. It makes 100% sense, as there's now just capital waiting on the sidelines until this event is done. But the key thing here is this halving event is where the new daily supply of Bitcoin gets cut in half from 900 to 450. So this is a massive reminder to the market of the scarcity in Bitcoin. Because remember, there's only 21 million in supply, right? There's only 21 million Bitcoins that can be created. 19 million something have been created so far. The market gets a very nice reminder every 4 years that the scarcity is real. And every 4 years, the demand chasing the remaining pool of Bitcoin explodes multiple times over. There's more and more money chasing Bitcoin now than there ever has been in history, yet there's less and less new Bitcoin coming onto the market every single day. You combine those two forces and you get electrifying moves higher. That is what is going to take place. The Bitcoin halving event is a reminder of fiat inflation, and those inflationary situations are real and they are damaging and they are impacting to you and I and to everybody on the planet. Because of this, because of Bitcoin's dynamics, this is a predictive insurance rate from Bitcoin protecting you against the damage of the inflationary situation that happens with fiat and has been happening for the last 100 years. The market gets a very nice reminder of that. This is also a reminder of the increase in security of the Bitcoin network that happens every 4 years. Okay, so this is coming right now, but this isn't what the market's going to focus on. As in, well, the media is going to focus on. The media is going to very nicely focus on Grayscale and their 12 billion of outflows that mean nothing. Now you combine the fact that Bitcoin has got a limited supply of 21 million with the fact that so much of that supply hasn't moved. It's crazy. So in the last 5 years, 30% of the entire supply of Bitcoin hasn't moved. Just process that for a minute. 30% of the entire supply of Bitcoin hasn't moved. So you have governments in there who haven't sold Bitcoin. You have large asset managers in there who haven't sold Bitcoin. You have hodlers like me and you who haven't sold Bitcoin. Unfortunately, you have the deceased in there who are no longer with us. They can't sell their Bitcoin, obviously. You have the owner of Bitcoin himself, well, the creator of Bitcoin, Mr. Satoshi. His allocation hasn't moved for years and years. 30% hasn't moved in 5 years. 70% hasn't moved in 1 year, 1 or 2 years. And these numbers are just increasing. So if we talk next year, it won't be 30% that hasn't moved. It will be 35%, If we talk in 3 years, it's not going to be 35%, it's going to be 50%. If we talk in 5 years, it's not going to be 50%, it's going to be 60%. More and more Bitcoin is getting stickier and stickier and stickier. That dynamic is super powerful, and that is what it creates ridiculously explosive price moves, because you have more and more people chasing less and less. This is a very powerful dynamic that's just going to continue to accelerate over time. So listen, 30% of Bitcoin hasn't moved in 5 years. We know the ETFs themselves, they own 5% of Bitcoin. And that's going to grow because, again, as I said, you've got a lot of capital sitting on the sidelines waiting to be put into these ETFs. The BlackRocks, mainly Fidelity, some ARK, some Grayscale, none. Forget about Grayscale. That's another 5%. Not all of that is going to be sticky. That's going to fluctuate a little bit. Obviously in bull markets, momentum markets, it's going to be super, super sticky during down periods, which we will go through in, 18 months time. Then you're going to see some outflows from BlackRock. Yes, but not now. So that's another 5%. Call it 5%. Add that to the 30%. You've got 35% of Bitcoin that's not going anywhere. Then you got Michael Saylor in the background doing a madness. He owns 1%. That's not going anywhere. That's just going to continue to increase. You're going to have more and more hodlers. That's how you're going to get more and more of the Bitcoin not moving. Supply stays fixed. More and more not moving. More and more demand. You're going to get a panic situation, right? People are going to start to get into a mode of realizing how scarce Bitcoin actually is. But by the time they do, Bitcoin won't be $63,047.67. Bitcoin will be 100,000. Bitcoin will be 200,000. Bitcoin will be 300,000. Crazy dynamic right now. Crazy dynamic taking place. And it will only just accelerate. Another reason why Bitcoin will show explosive moves is because the retail are not present right now. The moves that we've been seeing has been driven by institutions, driven by boomers, driven by this new pool that has been accessed, that has finally had access to Bitcoin. But it's the retailers. So it's like the institutions of smart money lay the foundation, then the retail jumps on top. You get that FOMO, then you get that crazy move. We are not yet in that phase. We're not yet in that FOMO phase. The retail's still very silent. The retail's not participating. I've shown you this before. Stablecoin supplies on exchanges sitting at 140 billion, right? So that's 140 billion of capital not yet injected into Bitcoin and the crypto market. Not yet. It will do. When will it do? After we've seen some more momentum. After we've taken out that $73,000 all-time high that was put in a couple of weeks ago. That's when all of that money will start flowing in, creating that second layer, that third layer, that fourth layer of the bull market, of the move. That's how you get above 100,000. Another way you could see that retail just really isn't in it. If you look at those who have small amounts of Bitcoin, so 1 Bitcoin, well, you might think that's a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, those that have over 100 Bitcoins, right? Those are the whales. They've been net buyers. They've been buying more than they've been selling. This just literally explains what I've said. And I've been saying for weeks. So those that have over 100,000 Bitcoin have been buying, and buying more than they've been selling. So in the last 30 days, 90,000. Last 60 days, 150,000. Compare that to those that have 0 to 1 Bitcoin, like yourselves. Last 30 days, negative 5,000. Last 60 days, negative 15,000. Once you start getting into that FOMO territory, where you start to get true retail participation, that's when the smaller participants, those that have 0 to 1 Bitcoin, start to get net positive. So they're buying more than they're selling. That's just another catalyst for an explosive move. And like, if you just go on Google, look at Google Trends, type in Bitcoin, you'll see that it's nowhere near where it was in the last bull run. Okay, price isn't far off where it was in the last bull run and has succeeded it with less retail interest. So imagine when the retail interest gets reignited, and which it will. It's inevitable. But it's always late. It's always delayed. It's always after, you know, several moves up. And it's always after declines like we've seen now, always after retracements when they could have gotten in. Another thing I've spoken to you guys about before is Bitcoin adoption is still very early in the days of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin adoption is only like 5%. That's a very tiny amount. So Bitcoin cryptocurrency isn't mainstream. It's not something where you open up your phone, you can use it for all your payment apps, all your apps that get you from A to Z. Like I spoke to you yesterday about, or day before yesterday, about Uber, and how Dara, the CEO over at Uber, he is going to be introducing and integrating cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, into his app. That's an app that people use every single day to get from point A to B, to get their food, all sorts of other things as well. And obviously as that app matures and progresses, there's going to be even more applications and use cases. So it's still very early days in the mainstream adoption of Bitcoin. Only 5% utilization right now. That's very small. That number will grow. But as that number grows, when that number does grow, Bitcoin is not going to be 63,000 what it is right now. It's going to be a lot higher than what it is. Every single day, a new company integrates crypto Bitcoin into their platform, into their system. But obviously these things take time. But that in itself is another catalyst, because when you start getting household names, very well-known applications, products, software services that start offering crypto and fully utilizing it, that is going to be a humongous catalyst. But the key thing is you are prepared and ready before then, right? You want to be proactive. You want to get in and establish before that happens, because when that does happen, it's not going to be too late, but it's going to be later than it was today, right? So these are just a small amount of the reasons why you are going to get an explosive move. And this pullback that we're seeing right now is a godsend. It is most definitely an accumulation opportunity. Remember, in the last bull run, there were 8 pullbacks of over 20%. As the price did what? 5x, 7x? This isn't even a 20% pullback. Not saying it needs to be 20%, because the more Bitcoin is more mature than it was back then. We have a whole new base of investors, a whole new base of participants. And because of that, and because of the nature, it has most definitely reduced volatility. But still, 8% pullbacks in the last bull run, and it 5x, 7x. The key thing is about knowing the right information and staying the course. That's all it is. That's all it is. All right, guys. In fact, let me actually, I meant to do this last time. I forgot to tell you guys, if you do have any questions, drop them down below. But let me enter the chat. Okay, cool. So, is this pre-recorded? Someone says, is this pre-recorded? No, it's not. It's live. It's live and direct. Cool. When I do these future live streams, do drop me down some comments or questions and I will address them at the end of the live stream. But until next time, guys, catch you next time.